All right, we are live streaming, and hopefully we're going into our everything. And I am going to live stream on Facebook today just for fun. So let me make sure all my stuff's turned down and muted so I don't overwhelm my speakers with everything. Hello, Chris. Welcome, Chris, to our program. Hello, everybody on Facebook tonight. We don't normally live stream to Facebook anymore, but this is a fun little day. We're going to answer a whole bunch of questions, so I thought, why not share a little bit about some of our minutiae and our specifics. So that's a lot of fun. Most people watching this video tonight will be at our One World Martial Arts Academy community, which is our Facebook, not Facebook, but our community that's like Facebook that you can join if you're one of our members. So if you've got even the free class, even if you've taken intro, which is our free, no cost, no obligation class, if you want to try it out, you just go to our website, www.oneworldma.com, and sign up for the intro class. It shows you some of our white belt videos and just some basic stuff of what we do. But even if you do that, you can join our community. Our community is pretty open and robust, and we enjoy having everybody there. We are, of course, streaming it through YouTube, but I don't monitor YouTube when we do this. YouTube is basically just a repository of videos for us. So hello, Facebook, and hello, One World Martial Arts Academy community. And I see we have Chris at One World Martial Arts community right now, checking in and saying hi. Hi, Chris. If you have a question, Chris, or anybody else has a question and wants to sign in a little bit later and ask a question or anything like that, ask a question. But tonight, yeah, I know you're all like, why are you? I'll be here, yay.
Tonight it's all about just rapid firing, quick, small questions here.
Yeah, I'm looking over at the board. We were writing down questions and saving up questions about really small, specific things, and we've got about 10 of them over there. So we're going to answer some very specific questions tonight so that they're on video forever, and we can share this with everybody, and we can kind of eventually we'll list out what we got around to answering and then in the description of these videos on YouTube and then on our community. And you guys will be able to pull those up in the Q&A section whenever you need to have these questions answered. All right, let me stand up and move off. And I most definitely did not just steal a sip of coffee while I was off screen. That would be ridiculous. All right, let's bow inside mouse, feet together. Bow. Okay, for those of you that haven't joined our program and you're just checking this out and seeing what it is, this class tonight, this is what's happening right now, is we're just answering a bunch of questions that have been creeping up over the last week or two. And we've been writing them down, and these are small questions. And so they're very specific about very specific techniques and things we're doing. So we just saved them up, and we're going to try to answer them all tonight. If we don't, we'll save a couple for the next time we do this. All right, let's begin. What was one of the first questions you got asked this week?
One question that I was asked when we were reviewing over our stepping, one question that got asked was, well, how do I really isolate my hips? You say like isolate my hips, use my thighs in order to do the switch step, but how do I do that? And honestly, it's one of those things where the more you really explain it, the more complicated it sounds. The biggest thing that you can remember for this one is try to keep your knees bent, stay on the balls of your feet, try to stay on the front of your feet, not have to be flat-footed, and try not to jump. Try to make sure the front foot pulls back while this back foot pushes forward. And try to drive with those hips.
Good. So he's exactly right. This is one of those things that is actually very contentious subject in some martial arts about using the hips, not using the hips, pivoting, pushing, pulling, you know, how much power can you generate really? And I'm going to skip all of that. I don't care whether you believe in it or not. We do it. So if you practice this, you will notice that your hips and torso generate a lot of power. For those of us that believe in this, we have a saying, the hips don't lie, okay? And what are we actually doing? So for those of you that are just tuning in and joining us with these things, what we're talking about is when we're light on our feet, when we're on the balls of our feet, when we're stepping at a 45-degree angle and getting over here, or when we're in sport moving around, we'll do what's called a switch step. And so we practice that. It's step number 6 in our stepping drill. So in our stepping drill, students are asking us, the switch step, what am I doing? Because in the beginning, a lot of people just hop up and down, 1, 2, and they switch their feet. And that's completely wrong. If you pivot with your hips and you remember our concepts of pushing and pulling, stop there. Okay? If you want to learn all the in-depth stuff about why we want to do this, it's all biomechanics, it's all leverage. It's all power generation. It's all using our big muscles to develop power. That's why we do it. Stop there. It's not that complicated. Okay? So what I'm doing is I'm using my hips to pull the front leg back and push the front leg forward by pivoting the hips along the spine, but using these muscles to switch them. And that way, I've engaged all my muscles. I'm not hopping and just swinging and throwing my feet around. I'm engaging all the muscles in here, switching and switching. And the hips generate a lot of power when you do that. And that power is important. Now, what is a switch step used for, Simon? Why would we switch step at all, they ask knowingly.
It's primarily used to either set up or used as a feint for folks who are expecting kicks or for when you want to throw a kick, but your other side is forward.
It's the same old evolution of the psychology of fighting and dictating the pace of your fight. Okay? If I'm fighting with my left foot forward, but I want to deliver a really strong leg because he's doing his right foot forward, I would naturally, while I'm going to switch my feet so I can start working that leg, his lead leg. That's common. Everyone does that. So a switch step is something that happens. That's step 1. You're moving around. I want to work that leg. Switch. Boom. And I want to be able to do it. I don't want to do this. Hop, reset, and kick's too slow. But if I can switch fast by engaging my muscles, I can get in there with that kick. Now, that's 101, okay? 102 is I've done that, and the next time I switch, he freaks out and switches. So I'm feinting. I switched again, you see what I did there? So it's all about dictating the pace of the fight. But if I can't switch fast, if I can't switch and switch because I'm hopping and hopping, then none of it's working. If you engage the hips to do that switch, it's faster, it's stronger, you're in control, your feet are on the ground, you have your balance, you have your power, you're generating momentum, you're developing kinetic energy. That's why we do it. So think about using your hips to do the motion. Pulling with the hips and pushing with the hips. 2 times. And in the step, we do it twice. Because if it's good enough to do it once, it's good enough to do it twice. And we want to practice that 102, the feint. Okay? But you would do it, sometimes you would just switch 1 time and you get in there and get to work. And sometimes you'll switch twice because you're actually switching to make him switch and then you're getting back to where you're going. Okay? And there's more to it than that, but for tonight, there's your answer. We switch with the hips. We don't hop up and down, and the image in your brain is pushing and pulling while spinning along the spine, twitching the hips, right? There's a lot of muscles in here. A lot of muscles in here, here, and here, right? Big muscles, lots of power. Hope that answered that question. One of the questions I'm getting a lot is because we adapt all the time for every student, and we are willing to say, this is how it's done because this happens. For you, with your challenges, do it this way. We have to completely and totally understand theory, application, and technique so that we can make it work. And one of the questions we get asked all the time is about toes in the stances, because where your toes go, your knees go, okay? So when I get to an H stance, my H, as we've explained, our first 3 stances are named after letters because that's the shape our feet make. If you draw a line connecting our feet together and you draw a line through our feet, out the toes and back out the heels, those lines touch and connect and make letter shapes. So if I turn my toes to face forward and my heels to face back and I connect my feet with a line, I have an H, a capital letter H. This is an H stance. here is an H stance. Now the problem is, when you turn your toes in here to make an H stance, the knees tend to droop in. You have to push the knees out. That's actually part of what makes the H stance so efficient and effective with side-to-side balance and a little bit of front and back. By putting the knees out, you're driving energy downward. And you're driving your weight out the legs and out the feet, out the edges. You're digging the blades of your feet into the ground. Now I'm not. Now I am. And that's digging the blades in, which is digging me into the ground. Okay? And this gives me a little bit of a flexion here. That foot is locked in. That's how I'm able to resist. If we turn our toes slightly out into a more natural stance, our knees stay out easier. They don't collapse in. It's more comfortable. It doesn't put as much strain on our shins. And we call this the horse stance because if you've ever ridden a horse, and everyone here in Texas has, you turn your toes out a little bit in the stirrups. This is a horse stance. Okay? Now, a horse stance is more natural. And so if you have trouble, motor, muscular, skeletal, and this is the H stance is going to work. There's absolutely no reason not to do the horse stance, except what happens at the ground is different between these two stances. Toes matter. At the point I turn my toes out at an angle, when my feet start to push in and out towards the blades, they are now pushing backwards at an angle, both directions. There is no equalizing pressure from the other foot in the opposite direction. When my toes are turned forward into an H, both feet are pushing out to the side, which means both of them are pushing against each other. And that helps lock me in. When my toes turn out, both my feet are pushing out to the back, which is literally pushing me forward. So you have to account for that. It's not worse, it's different. In some respects, we call it worse. In some respects, we like it because mobility-wise, movement-wise, pivoting and turning-wise, the horse stance has some advantages. So if you're working in our program and you know the pluses and negatives of either stance, and we work the H, but the H doesn't work for your body, and the horse does, then you can do the horse. But you cannot do the horse by accident. That's the big thing I'm teaching the students, and that's where the questions are coming. You can't do the horse by accident. You have to know what you're doing and why you're doing it. And if you make the choice to do that, then you also know the disadvantages and the modifications and the things you have to do to overcome the inherent disadvantages, because nothing is perfect. The H is not perfect. The H has disadvantages too. This locking in and giving me this side-to-side balance is very powerful, and I can generate a lot of power to the side, and I can handle movement and pushing, and I've got a lot of balance that way. I do not have the ease, well, yeah, thank you. I do not have the forward and back, and I do not have the ease of motion and pivoting and turning in a wider range that the horse gives me. The horse gives me, I'm already there. I'm now in a T. That's all I had to do, and I'm in a T stance. The H doesn't do that. The H has locked me in this way, and I actually have to reorient my center of gravity to do that turn. Whereas a horse, I'm already there. All I got to do is turn my toe out. But in an H, I cannot just turn my toe out. It doesn't work. I have to reorient the center of gravity and shift my weight a little bit more. So there are disadvantages and advantages to everything. One of the favorite things I ever learned in the last 15 years of my training was about 10 years ago. It was a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu instructor. About 10 years ago, I heard for the first time, you can't take something without giving something up. And I thought, wow, I've heard that in about 20 different ways, and I've never heard it as succinctly put as that. You cannot take something without giving something else up. Okay, there's no perfect technique. There's just the technique that works for the situation. So we teach, put your toes in that letter shape, H, L, N. Okay? We teach those, and we want those toes to create the lines that make your N shape, that make your L shape, that make your H shape. We want that. If that is causing damage or pain or risk of injury, then we don't want that, okay? But you have to know why first. So there's a question about that direction in toes, okay? We like to be very, very specific about it because you got to know why. Once we know the rules, we can modify, adapt, and accommodate the rules to fit, but you got to learn the rules first. That's why I insist you know what an H, an L, and N, a cat, a crane, a python, okay, and the cross stances are all about. Do them right, learn them, and say, I can't do this. Then ask the question. I can't do that. Here's why. It's causing damage. I have a bad knee. I got this thing that's going on. I have spasticity. I have damage to my joints because of this or that and the other thing. Okay, let's adjust. Right? I can't do the H. Should I do the horse? Maybe. Or maybe you should do the N. It's okay. Maybe, if you've got a real balance issue, we shouldn't force you into a stance, which is about balance, that you can't balance in. Maybe we should change the stance so that you have balance, because we can't forget the theory of stances is balance. If you don't have balance in an H stance, why are we all wasting our time? Right? It's about balance. If you can't balance in that, switch, do something that balances. It's not that hard to grasp once you are willing to roll with it. All right.
So the extent of our turning and our leaning. So this one is relatively simple. It depends on the situation. If you're really locked in, you might want to turn and lean a bit more, but the general rule of thumb is be aware of your center of gravity. Try not to lean over your knees.
We have some fundamental rules, right, of turning and leaning. One is never put your head past your knee, right? Some fundamental rules of leaning. I don't want to lean and get my head out in front of my knee. Right? I never want to get past the knee, okay? That's one of those rules, for example. Another, my opponent. If I'm here and I'm turning and punching him, I'm turning to him. I don't need to turn extra because in my drill, I always turn 90 degrees. It's not about 90 degrees, 80 degrees, 45 degrees. It's about putting your weapon in a straight line to the bad guy. Hi, bad guy. That's where I've got to punch, okay? Hi, bad guy. That's where I've got to punch, right? Hi, bad guy. I'm going to punch with the other hand, okay? All right? So you've got to think about that with your turning and leaning, because there is an issue, right? You can overextend when you turn and lean and lose the strength of the muscles in your back. We want to engage those muscles. One of the problems with staying square to punch is that little bit of shoulder extension isn't enough. And when it isn't enough, it's because I didn't hit it. Not enough reach. If I turn, I'm going to hit him. But if I overextend to hit him, I've lost the power to punch. So that's about range, not about extension. That's about range of punching. You can't over and chase until you've lost the power from the shoulders and the back. But you do want to engage. And what we teach in our program and in our system is our punches should be done much like a Western boxing punch. Okay? We shouldn't be punching here. We should be punching here, shoulder up onto the chin, punching out. This protects my chin. This extends my punch further. Rotating the shoulder makes this punch go further than this one. My jab gets here. My cross goes further. Okay? My jab gets here. My cross goes further. Okay? Without overextending. Okay? Now I can really overextend if I want. And that's overextended. And that's overextended. And I'm losing power from my back. Okay? But the rotation remains. Concepts. Don't put your head past your knee and put your shoulder towards your opponent. Okay? In blocking too. In our blocks as well. Right? We don't just block and block and block. We lean. We turn. We get out of the way. We drive in. We get our head offline. But a lot of that is from the turning and the leaning. And the shoulder faces the bad guy. Okay? I'm not doing this. This isn't an outside block. There's nobody over here to block. The bad guy's here. So I turn my shoulder to the bad guy. And as long as this gets outside my head, my block is successful. So that's why we turn and lean. Okay? It's part of striking. It's part of blocking. Because all blocks are strikes. Okay? So the extent of the turn and lean is don't overextend past your knee. Point your shoulder towards the bad guy. That's the simplest way to discuss this and talk about it. Now, If you find yourself overextending the hip far, far away and your punches are getting weaker, not stronger, then you're losing the power of the shoulders and the back. You're isolating your muscles and it's disappearing and you've only got your arm left. Remember to use your chest and back and belly to punch and lats, okay? And shoulders and everything. All right, another question.
This next one, you say drop your weight, but you also say light on your feet stepping. So, all right, fair enough. But the big thing that kind of catches a lot of folks is that there's two ways where we see this done incorrectly at first, where it's either like almost like zombie walk, Einstein would kind of say, or there's just like happy feet. We got to make sure we bend our knees, but keep our weight on the balls of our feet. So if we need to, we can dig in, but we can still move effectively.
Right.
A lot of folks just plant their weight right in the middle with their knees bent or don't bend their knees at all.
I always love this question because they're not really asking, how do I do, what do you mean? Do I drop my weight or do I stay on the balls of my feet? That's not really what most students are asking. Most students are really asking, why do I have to bend my knees?
Yeah.
That's really what they're asking. Why do I have to bend my knees? It's not a zero-sum game. It's not either or. It's not A or B. It's do both, okay? Stay light on your feet. Stay on the balls of your feet. Bend your knees and drop your weight. Boxers drop their weight all the time. They're light on their feet. Footwork is key. You can drop your weight and stay light on your feet. If you're not, I would argue you're doing it wrong. Okay? That's just, it's not either or. Okay? Now, in traditional martial arts, we do start off breaking things down into positions very often. And I think that's a big mistake if you leave it there. And I think that's one of the knocks against traditional martial art from sport-oriented martial arts, where they recognize early on, if you're standing still, you're getting punched in the face. Well, guess what? They're right. If you're standing still, you're getting punched in the face. So you've got to keep moving. How do you keep moving? You stay light on your feet. How do you stay light on your feet? You shift the weights to the balls of your feet as much as you can. There are times you'll have to drop your weight and you can stay on the balls of your feet and keep moving. And there are times you're going to drop your weight and your heels are going to hit the ground because you're turning into your hooks and you're coming in and you're throwing your hook in your uppercut and you're cranking and you're turning your hips. And so there's going to be a little bit of settlement on your weight, on your heels. And guess what? That's wrong. That means now you know what you have to work on. When you throw that uppercut and you settle your weight onto your heels, go, oh, try to stay more on the balls of my feet when I do it. Okay? Because you don't want to go on your heels. But it's a natural thing. And when that starts happening, it's usually because you're getting tired and you're straightening your leg. And so what they're really asking is, when is it okay to straighten my legs? When is it okay to either stand still with flat feet, right?
The answer, when you won the fight, you're safe.
Right. Thanks. Good answer. So the truth is, dropping your weight and staying light on your feet is not only possible, it is the goal. All right? Drop your weight and stay light on your feet. Okay? Stay light on your feet. Stay on the balls of your feet. Keep your knees bent. Move around. And think about that from a practical perspective. Think about that and how efficient that will be against someone who isn't doing that. Someone who's putting their feet flat. This is a statue. This is not a fighter. You've got to, at the very least, even deep stance fighters stay light on their feet. Okay? It's not a matter of stance, right? I don't want to say that. I don't want to get people angry at me. Well, you don't know what you're talking about. Deep stances when wars against the Mongols. I don't know, whatever they're going to say. I don't really care either. I'm not saying deep stances are bad. I love them, actually, personally. But you've got to stay light on your feet. Okay? So that question, how do I drop away? You keep saying light on your feet, and you say bend my knees and drop away. Yes, that's what I'm saying. Bend your knees, drop your weight, and stay light on your feet. Keep the weight centered over the balls of your feet. Plant your heels in traditional martial arts from time to time, but don't sit on your heels. It's okay to lock the feet in there when you're doing something. You know, that whole push your heel down to the ground, right? That's great. It's cool. It looks beautiful. I have never once yelled at a student for this. Why? Because this works great in real life. Why would I want you to stop? All right. Next question. Two fist position. This question I have to answer because I have a whole little note in our program about fist position, and I'm getting a lot of grief for it because I say something in that note. And what I say in that note is that this is a proper fist. And I say this is not. I don't know if I actually said not, but I said this is a proper fist, okay? Well, this is a Bondo fist. This is how I learned to punch. And somehow I neglected to say that in my video, that this is how I learned to punch. And the reason I do this punch is this is a boxer's punch, and it's a simpler fist to make. And with a lot of young students that have motor issues, especially fine motor, if your child, if you're watching this as a parent, if your child's in OT, they're probably going to put their thumbs inside the fist. Okay? And this ain't that different from this. So this is, take them out, wrap them around. Don't stick them in your fist. So that's the main reason I usually teach this fist. This is a basic fist. There's nothing wrong with this fist. People have been punching with this fist from different martial arts all over the world. West, east, north, south, forever. It's a great fist. Okay, this is a Bondo fist, and there are things about this fist I really like. The equalizing pressure of the squeezing thumb, the ability to use the thumb as a weapon, the ability to go from here into my knuckles if I need to, if I train them, if I'm good at it. Because by the way, if you just go to knuckles and think you're going to knuckle punch people, what you're really going to do is break your fingers. Okay? You have to train that and condition it. It's not something you can do because you saw me do it and you saw a video. You can't just go do cobra punches. You'll break your fingers. Okay? But you can do this and develop that. There is nothing wrong with this, so I've got to go back and redo that video. Okay, but those are the two fist positions. Okay, this is my Bondo fist. This is how I learned to do it. All right, but this is a good boxer's fist. A lot of it happens because you put on your gloves, wrap your fists up, and you work, and it's all good to go. All right, so what I said earlier in my video, I got to take it back. I need a retraction. I need to fix that. Oh, somebody put something in here. Oh, awesome. Somebody's doing Shotokan karate in England. Next grading is first Dan. Fantastic. That's awesome. Super, super, super. I love hearing that. I love it. I love it. Absolutely great. Tell her I said, keep up the good work, train really hard, and good luck. All right. What's the next question we got going on here?
Working high, working
low. High, mid, low. So this is a theory and application of our system. Now, as a lot of you know who are in my system or taking my classes or looking at the videos, you can look in the flags back here and you notice that our flag is it's a Myanmar flag. Our system, our martial art is from Myanmar. Okay? So when it came to America and Dr. Mungji started teaching what is known as the Hanthawadi system of Bondo in America, there is a theory that has changed a little bit over the years as far as the actual verbiage. The way I like to explain it and describe it and talk about it is the high and the middle and the low. Okay, we have a national tournament every year that doesn't have COVID-19 in it, and it's called the middle style tournament because a lot of our sport is what's called middle style. The high art is perfection of self and character, mental health, emotional health, spiritual health, physical health, right? Perfection of technique, beauty in motion, the art of martial arts, right? But it is martial, meaning military or combative. So the high art is concerned with basically what I always teach my students, like in the high art, it's about making you a great community leader, making you the best you can be, being better today than you were yesterday. Focus, discipline, respect, integrity, honor, right? That's the high art. That's what martial arts can do that many other sports don't do, okay? Because it's not a sport, it's an art. Now the middle style, or the middle system, that's our sport applications. And we have some wonderful sport in Myanmar. Our kickboxing is called Letway, right? Which is a lot like Muay Thai, only it's a little bit nastier. And then we have a grappling sport called Naban. And then, of course, there's competitions with weapons and competitions with empty hand forms and what most people call kata, we call aka. And so we've got a lot of sport. And the sport aspect, there's only certain things we can train with sport here. And so I get a lot of questions, well, how are we supposed to Like seriously, Saiji, how are you going to teach Letway online? Seriously. Well, I can't just take somebody who's never trained in Letway and say, let's train Letway and now you can go out and be a Letway fighter. It's not realistic. It's not going to happen. Okay. So a lot of sport, we have to recognize our limitations. So I was just talking about that today with another one of my students. Online, let's focus on the high art. Let's focus on being the best we can be. Let's focus on perfection of technique, perfection of form, physical fitness, being better today than we were yesterday, developing our character. Let's work on these things that I think the world needs more of anyway. Let's learn drills. Let's learn how to punch right. Let's learn how to kick. Let's learn movement drills. Let's learn how to bob and weave and slip. Let's learn and get bags and train at home. Let's find training partners and work with and watch the videos and do the best we can. But folks, you're not going to train at home with me and then say, all right, time to go over to Europe and start fighting in Letway. No, it's not going to happen. Okay? And I'm not going to lie to you and say it's going to happen, and I'm not going to advocate that. And it's kind of the same with self-defense, which is the low art, martial combat. Martial art, martial sport, martial combat. High, middle, low. Martial combat, great. I can teach you how to punch. You can learn to punch and hit hard. I can teach you how to kick. You can learn to kick hard. I can teach you how to move. You can learn to move really fast. I can teach you self-defense techniques. I'm going to teach you with this guy. If you're at home and you don't have this guy or a guy like him, you can't practice what I'm teaching, and you can't do it with resistance. So I can teach you concepts. I can teach you theory. I can teach you some of the application, but you can't master that application if you don't test it against a resisting opponent. So you have to find a training partner. So we also don't pretend that I'm going to turn you into the baddest, toughest self-defense expert in the world. Okay? Online programs are about perfection of character, which I think is far more important anyway. But I can teach you about situational awareness. I can teach you about environmental awareness. I can teach you about escalation and de-escalation. And I can teach you about assertive speaking, which is really 95% of self-defense anyway. I cannot teach you how to defend against a knife attack online. It's not going to happen. Okay? You've got to train in person with people. Let's be honest about what we're doing. All right? Good. I see another comment. Would you like to go to the next question? Sure. About how about the I don't know, overswing with stick? That's an important one.
Oh, we've been hearing a lot. We've been seeing a lot of this. So, everyone, we've been seeing quite a bit of this in our school lately because we've been really working stick. We've been really working weaponry. And one thing that we're really seeing a lot of is overswing, because people want to do the best technique they got. They want to go through the whole thing. They want to like really throw themselves into the swing and the slice. But we gotta still remember one of the fundamental rules of using a weapon or using a stick or using anything.
Not everybody's a bad guy.
Yeah. We don't want to go down. Ow! Yeah. We want to make sure that we keep our weapon between us and our opponent as much as possible. We want to, because if that guy has that camera over there, well, there's my weapon behind here.
Nothing has changed since day one when we begin teaching weapons, and we say keep part of the weapon pointed at the bad guy. Keep the butt of the stick pointed at the bad guy. If your stick comes out here, keep the stick pointed at the bad guy. Stick pointed at the bad guy, stick pointed at the bad guy, right? Nothing's changed. If you slice and you're over here, nothing's pointing at the bad guy. The rule stands. If you're slicing and you're turning, I'm pointing at the bad guy, okay? I'm pointing at the bad guy. I'm pointing at the bad guy. I'm pointing at the bad guy. You've got to keep your sword or your stick moving in such a way that you're in control, all right? You're in control of your zones. You're in control of your pre-cut, cut, post-cut, recovery, all right? Remember your terminology. You can't go, hey, with the stick, I was working on my pre-strike, strike, post-strike. Oh, I got a sword. Woo! Right? No, then you hurt somebody. And and I'm going to yell. But remember your rules. It's the same thing. Here's the bad guy, or I'm the bad guy, or whatever. We're here. If I do this and miss, I've lost. Okay? If I do this and miss, I'm still in the fight.
No, there is one thing. What your weapon is will alter what overswing means.
Yes, sir.
Overswing with this short stick here, and overswing with this larger blade, and
Sword's bigger.
and overswing with a pocket stick or a knife.
Much smaller.
Very different things.
Your angles and your lines and your pre-cut, cut, post-cut are going to be in proportion to the size of your weapon. A knife is a small weapon.
For a knife, overswing would be just here.
That's right. So when you're asking about overswing, or we're telling you about overswing, what we're telling you is remember where the tip and the butt of your weapon go. At the opponent, at the opponent, at the opponent, at the opponent, right? So it doesn't matter whether you're standing still and practicing nine slice drill, right? It doesn't matter. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, right? Doesn't matter. You still got to control it. Or if you're actually working your stick work, or you're thinking you're getting out of the way and you're working your stuff, you still got to move, and you still got to think this is a bad idea. Look at my stick. That's a really bad idea, right? Okay, good point, time out. Good question. All right, got another comment that came up from somebody just checking out some of our Q&A here. That's awesome. That's fantastic. So just so you know, that I started this whole thing because I became a special education teacher because I have a sister that has autism, and I have a brother that has some significant physical challenges. And my brother got into Special Olympics, but all my sister wanted to do was dance. And it was very, very hard to find anyone who would teach her. And that always made me angry, even as a child. That made me upset. So part of what I do is I go out and help people make better programs at their school that are more inclusive. It makes me feel great to hear stories like that, to know that there are schools out there doing things like this. Just makes me feel just fantastic. I'm so happy to hear that. And your school that she trains at should be lauded for just recognizing that everyone has the right to take martial arts, and if you give them an opportunity, they can be great. All you got to do is give them an opportunity. How many black belts have we put in this school in the last 8 years? How many black belts have we promoted since we started 8 years ago here at this location?
We have
9
and a few more on the way.
Right, eight black belts, 1 junior black belt.
Yeah,
right?
1 junior black. Yeah.
8 black belts, 1 junior black belt. So in the last 8 years since we started this location, we've had eight black belts, 1 junior black belt, and all 9 of them have a special need or a challenge. All 9. So that's something I'm a little kind of proud of. So not to out any of my students or anything, but it's simply a matter of that isn't what defines them. That what they are is a black belt, and they earned it, and did a great job. So, all right, we're running a little low on time. I do want to talk a little bit about what do we got there? Steps, stances, and then the question about ground. Oh, yeah, going to the ground. So one of the things we're talking about with the high, middle, and low are we do have a sport called Laban, which is a grappling sport, and we do have self-defense and stuff that goes to the ground. But some questions from some of my higher-ranking students going, why aren't we going to the ground? And that also comes back to the here on the mats, adults. I work the ground in a very diverse school. We want to do things that everyone can do, but we also want to do things that will help and can focus on specific needs. And so I will teach individuals different things, and some of my students have learned some ground, but ground grappling and ground fighting requires partner if you're going to do it in any way, shape, or form. And so as we were building some Laban, and we were building some grappling, and we were building it into our upper level belts, COVID hit. And I just made a decision not to include it. We'll put it aside, and we'll offer those videos in a completely separate thing when it's a little closer. So yes, we have grappling. Yes, we have ground fighting. We have chokes. We have throws. Our grappling and ground fighting is not repackaged Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. BJJ is awesome, and if you can train it or train in it, you should. It's awesome. It's great. But Laban is different. To the lay person, some of it will look similar and some of it will look different. And to the person who's actually involved in ground sport, grappling sport, there's no comparison. It's very different. Naban is becoming more scientifically applied, but it did used to be.
Yeah.
So Naban is starts standing, and strikes are legal, and you can throw people to the ground and do stuff, and that's part of the sport. So it's a little different. So a lot of your early techniques in Naban consist of getting someone to the ground, not starting on the ground. And so a lot of early Naban almost looks like judoka who are slapping each other at the same time. so it almost like judo to the ground to grappling wrestling. Indian wrestling from India is the closest family member to Naban, that's the most recognizable. So if you've ever seen any of the wrestling sport from India, then you have a better indication of what Naban would be than by watching Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. All right, but yeah, we've got some of that, and we put it in. Hey, I want to do a shout out. Shout out to Saad and his Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu school in San Antonio. Saad's a good friend of mine, and he's awesome. And his Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu school is awesome. And I don't know if he wants me advertising for him on my channel, but I do love that guy, and I think his school does everything right. Just absolutely everything right. What a great program that is. All right, let's speak of Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. Moving on.
The last one.
Last question. Got 5 minutes left.
I'm surprised we got through like the whole list. Stepping and stances. Honestly, this one's a really quick one, so we're gonna do. This one is just not necessarily something that we've been asked, but something that we're seeing quite a bit now that we're really introducing steps to everyone, or as many people as would need it. But one thing that we're seeing a lot when we're on Zoom or during belt tests or things like that is for our steps, we're seeing people neglect their stances during the steps.
Look what he's doing with his second foot, or we call the off foot. He's pushing with the off foot to get over here, okay? He pushes with the off foot, that's great. He puts the in foot down where it's supposed to be, that's great. But then he disengages the off foot's muscles. He disengages, and it just drifts over. He pushes hard, he gets over hard, and then he just disengages, okay? He just slides, push and slide. I'm exaggerating, but that's what's happening, and that's wrong. You have to engage your body the whole time, because if I'm in this blue square and I want to get to that red square, I got to step into the red square. I got to step. I can't just step and drag. See what I'm doing? Falling is what I'm doing. Okay? See what I'm doing? My foot's moving slow. It's going to get tripped, caught up, trapped, grappled, pulled down. It needs to be here. Shoulder distance apart. If I'm moving forward, I can't step forward and then lightly step down, which happens. People step out here and then they just, I'm going to come in here. Right? That's the big concern that we've been noticing. When you step, I should hear the feet come in and come down. Your body should be locked into the ground. I'm on the balls of my feet. I have mobility. If I have 2 feet down, I have balance. If I've got 2 feet down, knees bent, and feet in the proper position, I've got maximum balance. Anytime I have 1 foot off the ground, the most balance I can have is 50%. That's it. That's the most you can have if everything else is perfect. And if you're drifting through the air, it's not perfect, folks. You do not even have 50% of your balance, okay? So that's why it's so important. When I step, I want to get my feet back on the ground because that's where I've got the balance to deal with the threat, okay? I don't want to go back up and drift, but kick my leg, especially if he's another practitioner of Bandha or Tang, because we love kicking legs. He's going to kick my leg, I'm going to step back and drift. Oh, that's a bad idea, okay? But if he steps back and I step back, even if the kick comes in, I'm here, and then as it comes in, I can either, if I have to, God forbid, take the kick. But as I step back and plant, I can always, now I'm in control. Because my feet came down and the kick's coming in, I can check it, boom, and come back in. Okay? You've got to put your feet down. Got to put your feet down, all right? Keep yourself connected to the ground, 2 feet. as much as possible. All right? Good. Don't make me yell at you again. All right. Awesome. I can't believe we got through all the questions tonight.
I know, right?
So that's a lot of really little specific, what would we call that? Specific minutia of some very specific stuff we're working on. And those are questions that are starting to come in with some frequency. So I thought we'd address those. Both students that are coming in, well, nobody comes in here anymore, but both students that have been with me for a while through Zoom classes and students that are joining the online program and trying it out and getting through that yellow belt level, and they're starting to learn this stuff. They've been with us 3 months or so now and been doing our online program. And they're starting to think, all right, I got some real questions here because videos are cool and all, but I need to talk to somebody. Well, these are the questions that I'm getting emailed, okay? And like I always said, I'll always answer your questions. We'll always try to put them on here. I'll answer you by email. If it's valid enough, that it's important enough right away that I think a video will answer it better, I'll do a quick video and send you that personally. But usually I'll do the video and put it up on the community and say, here's a video of a question that was asked, and then I'll highlight you personally and say, here's the answer to your video. I filmed a real quick answer. Okay? That's the whole reason we have the community, is because a Q&A section is too static and too slow to grow and too hard to navigate. But with a community that's live and everybody's active on it, if somebody asks a question that's been asked 6 times, somebody on there is going to remember the link and go, oh yeah, it's this one right here, and show it to them. And then everybody will get their answers faster and better, and they'll be the correct answers. So I'm really excited about the community. So I hope everybody takes advantage of that community we have on our online program. All right. I think that's it. I think we did it. I think we answered all the questions we wrote down on the board. All right. Good. All right. Simons, why don't you bow us out?
Everyone, get together, arms out. Attention. Bowing and bowing out. Yeah.
Yeah, one job, Simons. One job.
Yeah, I know.
Have a great night, guys.
Fire roll.
All right. I think we got it. And this one doesn't want to end. Try it again.